Well, this
And
is off
ladies
to a
and
crack.
gentlemen,
Sorry, I didn't realise I was meant to
Started
shut up.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a good way to segue into the start of this thing, but I'll just do it like this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever episode of the METEORA podcast, presented to you by the 630.com, for the fans, by the fans.
This is gonna be a shit show.
Look,
What do you mean?
at least let him finish the introduction, then introduce us all. Shut up.
All right.
God, have a little faith in us, okay?
Okay. Go ahead.
Now I don't want to continue. So the 6:30, I guess. I'm trying to figure out in my head where to start about sort of who we are and what we are. But let's just start with who the heck we are. So joining me today, I've got three kind of annoyed people because, and I'll give you an insight into the workings of this
1
already.
hour.
Yeah. Currently for me right now, it's at 9 a.m. around about. I live in New Zealand. So I've said to these guys, okay, yep, 8 o'clock when I start recording. My time. So I
It's fucking 10
staying
o'clock at night.
I ended up staying up all night. What I didn't intend on doing was playing 6 hours of Among Us until 6 a.m. and somehow passing out.
I told you to sleep before that.
7. Yeah, but the thing is, if I would have napped, I would have like not woken up at all. Regardless, though, we are here. We are going. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Go.
Shall we?
I'm not going first.
I'm going first.
Okay,
hello,
you'll go
everyone.
first. We'll go.
My name is Jake. My thing is I really like 90s All Japan, and I like pro wrestling Noah a lot. My favorite wrestler of all time is Mitsuharu Misawa, and my favorite current wrestler is Kazuchika Okada.
Ooh, this is how we're doing it.
I don't know how you guys were gonna do it. So yeah.
I like how he's done it.
Okay. My name
Like how you done it.
my name is Brad. I like wrestling. I don't really have a specific niche that I fall into. I enjoy pretty much everything. My favorite companies at the moment are probably DDT and Stardom. It's a very drastic switch, I know. And I don't really have a favorite wrestler at the moment, so I'll just say I like Chris Brooks.
He is a great boy.
Ooh, I like Sonata too. Sonata is like my favorite New Japan boy. Tie-in. I'm also
tie-in.
I am. Well, I guess it is me. I am Neil. I am from the great nation of Britain, so I have a huge bias towards British wrestling. Other than that, I just love all of wrestling in general because it's the best. My favorite wrestler currently is The Fiend because I'm that dick.
I can feel Jake's anger.
Yeah, although Cara Noir is also joint first because they're both the fucking bomb.
I should probably say
No, swearing.
Yeah.
They're both really, really good.
You're allowed to swear.
In your opinion.
It's
just
just
try to not do it as much as I normally do.
Just
Yeah, I'll tone it down.
overdo it. Like overkill it. I
Yeah,
think
so
these guys are much involved. So how
Wait, hang on. You need to introduce yourself. You've done all the talking, but people don't know who you are, idiot.
well,
Introduce yourself.
my name's Kane. I am kind of the editor of the 630 website. I do not. My part-time jobs are not concessions, a businessman, or a mayor. Surprisingly, I'm still a music student. Currently, but I just do this.
He's the devil's favorite music student.
I'm the devil. Oh my god! I need to write that down.
Yes, that's your new official nickname.
That's my new official nickname. Like my favorite promotions at the moment are probably Progress and God, ICW. I'd say probably up there for me. I'm not. These guys have really introduced me to a lot more New Japan stuff. Well, not New Japan, but Japan stuff in general. So I'm now doomed in terms of what I watch.
Yep.
I don't really have any favorites, to be honest, because there's like different bubbles of wrestling that I like, which is something that we're going to really get into on this podcast. today's opening podcast is basically a whole breakdown. It's the first part of 2 parts of the G130 breakdown. So what we'll be doing over the next 2 episodes is breaking down the official blocks for the G1 Climax 30, talking through each of the wrestlers in them, their chances in the actual block, and our thoughts. Because as you'll be able to find out, and if you go onto the website and have a look, we're pretty opinionated people.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
This could be
We all
interesting.
Unfortunately.
differ quite drastically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we manage
going on like 20-minute rants about how he hates the Fiend, especially
exactly,
Neil said that's one of his favorites right now.
if we manage to get through this podcast and Jake doesn't want to fly across the ocean and murder me, I will be surprised.
Pretty sure he already does.
Yeah, probably.
Plane tickets are just too expensive.
Thank you, COVID.
So we're
And
just-
speaking of COVID, actually, that brings me on to the first point I wanted to bring up. Sort of, this is a question for everyone, but I'll direct it to Jake first because I know his opinions on this are interesting.
And that is?
Talk about your opinion on like the state of New Japan in 2020 right now, factoring in COVID and all that stuff that's happening around that. But what do you think about sort of where the product is right now? And I'll ask this to everyone else as well.
There's a very good video on YouTube by Forrest Sawa that he explains that whenever a promotion is getting bad, the fans are the last ones to know, because they're the ones who wants to hold on to the last bit of a promotion and think that, okay, that's good. It happened in the mid 2000s with Ring of Honor. It happened with Noah. It's happened with WWE for a lot of people. It happens with NXT right now. To me, I think New Japan is getting to that stage where people are starting to realize this is not the same New Japan of 2017. This is not the same New Japan as 2016 before then. Like the 2013 to 2017 is prime New Japan. And I think that's, what people will remember from this period in New Japan. But current New Japan is completely different. The emphasis on, interference heels is really something that bothers me. Because you think of the 2 biggest interference heels in the company, you think of Switchblade Jay White and Evil, and they're both phenomenal wrestlers who don't. Well, Evil's not phenomenal, but he's good. They're both wrestlers who can get without having interference. And especially with the COVID thing, you think of the guys that they have that will appeal to foreign markets, and all they really have is Will Ospreay, who's a very controversial figure, because Jeff Cobb is not as big as
choose your words carefully, boy.
Jeff Cobb's not as big as he should be. And then Jay White is more recognized in New Japan than he is for his work elsewhere. So it's kind of a mismatch. I think they have the best roster in all of wrestling, but I think that their booking is very questionable.
I think they're one of the most diverse rosters that you'll see in pro wrestling today in terms of people that can do legitimately anything and be able to captivate you with whatever story. I wanted to fling that to you now, Brad, because you talked about it before how your love of Stardom and DDT and loving those both sides of pro wrestling. So
Yes.
how does that factor in with your love, with your current feelings towards New Japan?
Well, I agree with Jake on many points. I do think New Japan is kind of at that point where people are realizing it's not the same as it was back in like 2016, let's say. It's not the best point for New Japan. I'm not going to try and claim it is. They're in a bit of a down curve, especially with the fiasco that was Evil's double title reign. But for the most part, I still quite enjoy New Japan. It's definitely not to the point where it was like in 2016 where they had a bunch of their top guys who then went to WWE, or their booking was just simply amazing. It's definitely on the bit of a down curve, but I think given time, especially once COVID is a little bit more under control or done, they can definitely get back on that up curve.
I think it is part of that out of controlness, partly because of the situation we're in. But if you look at 2016 New Japan, it's kind of like, and I'll throw this one to Neil, it's kind of like what Progress Wrestling in the UK had faced a lot in terms of lots of people leaving at different times to go to such places as what TNA, the WWE, and whatnot. Neil, can you talk about sort of how you find that because of the context you can put it in from a Brit pro wrestling perspective?
Yeah, I think New Japan's doing a lot better than some of them, at least than Progress did, and a lot of the more smaller British companies did when they lost all their talent. Because New Japan's the way they're building people up to try and take their place, whilst very quick, I think they've managed to do a pretty good job when they lost all their talent, and now they're trying to rebuild. It's still strange because when they lost Kenny, I think that was one of their biggest blows because he was a huge foreign draw.
Yeah.
And I think they're slowly building like that up. And I in a weird way, I think Naito is one of the people like Naito and Okada are quite big with the foreign fans. At least I don't know because I live in very much the wrestling bubble. But whenever you hear people who don't know much about New Japan, the people that they talk about the people they've heard of tend to be Okada and Naito. So I think they're doing quite well.
Yeah, Ibushi and Omega for his New Japan run. Those four are the names you most commonly hear from sort of a British fan about New Japan.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that
I
I've
throw
heard.
Tanahashi in there. I throw Tanahashi in there.
Yeah, Tanahashi as well.
Yeah, Tanahashi as well. But then he's always been there. He's the problem is
New Japan's still alive.
Exactly.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
More recently,
guys...
I'd throw Kane in there as well, just because a lot of people know him from his time in NXT and WWE.
Yeah.
You mean the time that he wasn't injured in a car park?
Yes.
But we won't go into that because there's a whole other podcast in that one.
Stars WWE fucked up on. I'm gonna swear too much. Stars WWE ruined a podcast. We can start with Hideo Itami and go all the way through.
Oh, do you want that to be like a
EC3.
17-hour podcast?
Oh, of course, yeah. I've got nothing to do.
Okay. God. So the G1 Climax in general. We're now in G1 Climax 30. Now, of course, you just haven't had the G1 Climax. You've had multiple other facets of this tournament. But in your opinion, regardless of everything that's happening right now, for all of you guys, I'll throw this out. What does the G1 Climax tournament mean to pro wrestling in general?
The G1 is the best wrestling ever, or at least the G1 Climax is the best thing to happen to wrestling ever. Every year. I genuinely think it is because every year the G1 will produce at least one match of the year candidate. I don't think any other tournament or any other period in wrestling produces such consistent quality in that you could pick any show throughout the whole G1 tour and I can almost guarantee you will find a match that is above average because you have the best wrestlers on the planet doing what they do best. From my perspective, I'll quickly explain my relationship with New Japan because I'm a very weird one in that I don't watch. I'm not an obsessive with New Japan. I know a lot about it, but I'll probably in a year I'll probably only ever be watching Wrestle Kingdom, Dominion, and the first night of the G1, and that's kind of how I do, and then I keep up with it the rest of the year. So for me, the G1 is this is New Japan, and it's one of the best ways to get into Japanese wrestling.
It's a launching point for everything in New Japan, especially when they run. This is basically their start to the road to Wrestle Kingdom, is where they kick off so much stuff in the G1 Climax, and we'll get into that soon. But for Brad Jake takes on you guys about the importance of the G1.
For me at least. Years back, I was kind of in the same boat as Neil years back where I would only watch the bigger shows for New Japan. So I was aware of it, but I didn't really go out of my way to watch the smaller stuff. Yeah. And then the G1 happened. I don't remember which G1 it was, but I remember watching almost every single night, and there was always at least one, if not more, match that got me hooked, I guess is the best way I could put it. The G1 is what really solidified my fandom of New Japan. It's one of the reasons why I love it so much. I say this every single time the four of us talk. Tournament season in Japan is the best season for wrestling. Period.
I don't
And
think
the
you can argue with
G1 is probably the biggest of those tournaments, along with like the 5-star for Stardom, the N1 for Noah, the Champions Carnival for All Japan, among others.
Yep.
And the G1 is the most known of those, and therefore I think it has a high bar to live up to, and it almost never disappoints, especially not last year, because every night last year was super good. And I have the same faith for this year because the lineups for this year, for the most part, are super good.
I think the greatest thing that New Japan do with the tournaments, like the New Japan Cup, Best of Super Juniors, the G1 especially, is they make every single night matter. You could go into a night thinking, oh yeah, the matches, they're not bad. Like, there's nothing that's going to be real standout. And then they will make you watch that. You have to tune in to see it.
It's definitely a way to get people to notice someone they wouldn't necessarily think that much about.
100%. And that's something interesting to look at for this year. Because this year in the G1, there are no new debutants. For the first time ever.
We still need to let Jake.
Everyone's been there before.
His 2 cents in.
Yeah, go.
Okay. So I've been to a G1 show before.
You lucky bastard.
In my hometown. So it's I have a different perspective on it because I've seen the process of it, and the way that these wrestlers, they don't just. I think the best part about the G1 is that they're out of their element, and they wrestle different styles than what they're used to because they're going against so many people in such a short period of time. And every match has that 30-minute time limit where guys like Okada, Naito, and Jay White are used to going over 30 in their main events. So they have to condense their stuff into more short-based stuff, and they can tell more stories in their matches. Also, this highlights the best part of New Japan's booking because they have their, everyone talks about New Japan's master plan or whatever. And I think this is the best one to do it because you think of last year, you had on the final night, you had Okada and Ibushi going for it. And then you had in A block. And then in B block, you had the slim chance that Goto was going to finally make the finals again, which was a great story. And then you had Jay White, who started off the tournament 0-3, who ended up making finals. It's like they interweave these stories in that are very interesting and very appealing. And I think it's the best that New Japan has to offer in the calendar year.
100%.
Yeah, and adding on to that from a booking point of view, one of my favorite things about the G1 is how it's basically like New Japan presenting to you, this is our plan for now until Wrestle Kingdom, because
100%.
you see, because I love the fact that champions are in the G1, but the very nature of how the G1 is laid out, it gives them an out for losing. And so it makes me more excited for these rematches, and then whoever beats a champion in the G1 is almost guaranteed a title shot. And every single year I go, oh, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to check that show out just because I saw some of that in the G1. I want to see the rest of it, or
Zack
whatever.
Jr. beat Naito. I'm going to watch that.
Just so good.
That was the first person that came to mind.
It's one of the reasons why you get the most excited as a wrestling fan, especially for tournament season. But as I just alluded to before, the first year ever that in the G1 there's no new debutants. How does this impact now the layout of the tournament now that you have no newbies? How does this impact sort of the viewing pleasure, knowing that everyone's had a go at this and they know what they're doing?
It shows that they all know how grueling the tournament can be. They know what they're getting. They know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that. I think it's the fans know what we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
Because we know what we're going to get with a Yano match. We know what we're going to get with, Ospreay. We know what we're going to get with Ibushi. We know what we're going to get with these guys in the G1.
I hate
Yujiro and Yoshihashi are in their own separate, canon, but everything else, we know what we're going to get out of these guys, and we know what to expect from their matches. And so it's nice of them to, shake up the formulas that they have and show us what they can do in the G1.
I think it's a very interesting field, and as we run down the A block for this episode, God, would be remiss if we didn't talk about how bloody stacked is this A block. Let me
Dude,
run it down.
It is so good.
Let me run it down real quick. You got Kota Ibushi, Jeff Cobb, Kazuchika Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, Will Ospreay, Yujiro Takahashi. Well, actually minus him. Jay White, Taichi, Minoru Suzuki, and Shingo Takagi. How bloody stacked is that?
it's gonna be so good.
It is, yeah. There's not. I think even like what we can agree is probably the weakest person in the block. Even in that case, he's still
You can say his name.
yeah Takahashi.
It's
Yeah,
not Beetlejuice.
Yujiro is the weakest person. Even though Yujiro is the weakest person in that block, I'm still like he can still put on good matches. Like he's not bad, and he's at least gonna be working. And when they wrestle him, there is at least gonna be he can do stuff that is engaging, and there's no other matchups for him that I'm like, oh well, that's just gonna be a stink fest.
Yeah. It helps that a lot of the time he's going to be going up against people that we all flat out just love.
Oh yeah, it's the fact that they've put just like, here's all my favorite New Japan guys in a block. Nice.
And then Yujiro.
Yeah, and then Yujiro. But you win some, you lose some.
I love this entire podcast. It's the entire A block. What? And Yujiro.
I think that the A block is very stacked because of these stories that they tell, specifically with one Switchblade Jay White.
Switchblade.
I'll get into Jay White later on, but he's got the most in-depth, most captivating stories with these guys.
And also Jeff Cobb, just because I love Jeff Cobb. My big sweet Hawaiian boy.
Jeff Cobb and Tomohiro Ishii.
Give it to me.
We don't need to go into it yet, but
we will get to this. We will get to this.
How does this A block and even B block? Let's just run down the B block real quick because we'll do that next episode. But you got Tanahashi, you got Juice Robinson, you got Hiroki Goto, Todoyano, Yoshihashi, Tetsuya Naito, Sonata, Zack Sabre Jr., Kenta, and Evil. Even that is pretty damn stacked.
Oh god, the next
it's
episode
weaker than
goldmine of me just ranting about Yoshihashi for like 20
gonna
minutes.
be great. But B block is weaker than A block, but that's not really saying much because it's still like any other year we'd be talking about how absurd B block is. It's just that this year is disgusting.
I'm pretty sure last year we did talk about how stacked the B block was.
Well, no, what I mean is if this B block was almost any other year, we'd be talking about how disgustingly good this block was. But in comparison to A block, it's just blown out the water.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at that actually. It's something that Brad brought up. How does this year's lineup compare to last year's lineup? How does G1 30 compare to 29?
I think it's weaker.
You think it's weaker?
It's
weaker.
I have to agree with him there. It is weaker.
Maybe.
Not by much though. Like it's weaker, but it's not weaker by much.
I want to say for me, it's weaker in terms of the star power for some of the guys, but in terms of the storyline ability, it's so strong.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm just saying I would take Mox and Lance Archer over, Ichiro and Yoshihashi.
Definitely,
No,
I think those two.
Yoshihashi, what are you talking about?
I think those two are going to be the.
Just to punch you.
I think those two are going to be the sore thumbs, and I think when we talk about there being no debutantes, I do think that is one weakness of the tournament, because one big thing the G1 does is it allows people to break out. So last year, even though it wasn't, I don't think it was his first, but Lance Archer was the breakout star of the G1 last year.
100%.
But then this year I haven't been completely keeping up with the product. I'll give in to that. But putting someone in like, I don't know, Master Watto, like he's not, or however you say it, he's not terrible from what I've seen. And putting him in would give him some G1 experience and put him on a platform that people like me would see.
Not even Watto. I think Hiromu should have been in there this year.
Maybe,
Hiromu,
yeah. But I
Like,
just think
you know,
having
Like if you take
having
Yoshihashi out and put Hiromu in, B block immediately is so much better.
that's it. I just think that it could do with a fresh face in, just because it helps add something to the whole
movement.
tournament and helps create people.
Well, speaking of creating people, let's now go into our breakdown of each individual in the block.
Okay.
Shall we? Let's go, boys. Let's start with the Stone Pitbull Tomohiro Ishii.
Done.
Okay.
The
This
current
is
never openweight 6-man tag champion. It's his eighth consecutive year of the G1. Last year he went 4-5 with 8 points in G1 29.
To give a little context, each of us, the participants of A and B block, were split amongst me, Jake, and Neil.
I'm just here to make sure the conversation goes somewhere constructive.
Jake has the most
Yes.
A block people. I have the most B block people. Neil has a mix.
I picked basically who I like the most. So the guys I'm
Yeah.
talking about, I'm very passionate about.
You'll be able
and I
to,
got
you'll be able you'll be able to see who got first dibs and who got last.
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that no spoilers, but you'll know.
Okay, go.
I got
I think-
screwed.
I think Ishii was the MVP of the 2019 G1 Climax because he literally put on great matches with everyone he fought. Whether it be his brawl with John Moxley or his strike fest with Shingo, he was the MVP of the G1. Many people considered him one of the best wrestlers of the year, specifically because of his G1 performance. He's consistent. He's been doing this for ever, since the mid-90s. He's Tomohiro Ishii. There's not much to say about the quality of his matches, besides the fact that he's the Stone Pitbull. If you're talking about the best wrestlers in New Japan, he's in your top 5. He has to be. He is in the conversation for who should be the IWGP champion, but there's just no stories with it, and that's none of his fault. Ishii is just really fun to watch, to be honest. I expect his matches to be. I expect him to be like in all of his matches, but I don't see him in like the final night that he could be in a contender for winning A block. His first match, yeah, he's going against Kota Ibushi, which I think is going to be a very interesting style because it's their 4th singles match against each other, and I just feel like their styles would mesh really well. It's a guy who takes a lot of neck bumps versus a guy who does not have a neck.
No Nick versus fuck my Nick.
Yeah, basically.
And I think that could just be a great match between two of the best workers in New Japan. Then you have Ishii versus Jeff Cobb, their 3rd time going against each other. They fought each other last year and it was fun. I think that these two have good chemistry just because they're big men who can put on a fun match. I'm looking forward to that. And then you have Ishii versus Okada, which is, it's not going to be a 5-star match. That has the potential to be, I feel like. It's just they fought each other a lot, and they don't seem to have good chemistry, but it's not that perfect chemistry that you need to have a classic, in my opinion.
I don't think an Ishii match needs to be like a technical classic, though.
I'm not talking technical. I'm talking just like a classic in the form of like storytelling.
I mean, look at his opening match. It's Ishii versus Suzuki.
Yes.
On opening night.
They're just gonna kill each other. It's just gonna be 2 men walloping the crap out of each other, and I am so in for this.
For me, that's my Ishii versus Moxley of this tournament.
I think Ishii and Moxley was the best match that Moxley had in the G1 last year.
Nah, it's him versus Yano.
Fair. That was fun.
Everyone has their best match against Yano. Don't at me.
So after Okada, you go to the 3 people I think Ishii is going to have the best matches with, and that is Tomohiro Ishii facing Will Ospreay for the very first time.
First time?
That's
the
first
first
match?
time. First time they've ever fought each other in their chaos match.
Okay,
I mean-
damn.
I should know that because spoilers, but I just forgot it. Shit, yeah.
That's the first time Tomohiro Ishii and Will Ospreay are facing, so it's two Chaos boys. I'm a very big Chaos fan because of Okada, but and Show and Goto. Anyways,
Just all of chaos.
And just
Yeah.
chaos.
Fuck Yoshihashi. Bin.
so I think that match could even steal the tournament, even though I have his best match being another match with Shingo Takagi.
Oh, it's gonna be so
Oh.
good.
God.
A common theme of my thing is I put some of the very best matches against Shingo Takagi because I feel like he's arguably the best wrestler in New Japan right now.
Definitely one of.
Definitely in that top. Yeah.
Easily top 5. Top 5.
Easily.
Top 5. Fave 5.
Fave 5, Booker T.
5 tap. 5 tap.
5 times.
Ishii's like run in New Japan, especially in his later years, as he's sort of gone into that grizzled veteran, beats the shit out of you person, has been very interesting to watch in the way that New Japan uses him.
He's
think
the
if I
bride.
know-
Yeah, I actually think he's in like the right spot for him because like
Yeah.
I think I don't think he's ever going to be heavyweight champion. I think that ship has firmly sailed. If they were going to do it, they would have done it a few years back. But I think his current position of just everyone just knows Ishii's really flipping good, and Ishii's going to be really good no matter what you give him. And so I think him having that role of just being there and being great is the perfect place to have him.
I personally think Ishii has gotten better as the years go on.
Oh, yeah.
People didn't really appreciate how good Ishii was until like 2014, 2015 G1 Climax. So they didn't have that window to really put the belt on him. So he's never going to win the belt because people realized he was good way too late. And then just paddling on with the Suzuki thing, it's the rematch I'm looking forward to the most. And they will literally murder each other, and I cannot wait for that because Murder Grandpa versus Murder Grandpa is a fun match.
Oh, so good.
It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
Just that whole opening night of A Block on the 19th.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's bonkers. The main event is Okada versus Ibushi, and Neil, you can talk a lot more about Ibushi. Now, 6th entry, 4th consecutive. Last year he won the goddamn tournament, went 7 straight wins in the A block, and he held the record for the longest match time combined from last year's tournament with 3 hours, 15 minutes, and 28 seconds.
Oh, lad.
Yeah, Ibushi's something else. Like he's one of I don't think he's probably in the contest for the best wrestler, but he's also probably definitely the top for the most mental wrestler in New Japan. I
Easily.
think, yeah,
Easily.
Ibushi is I love him because he's just wild as a human, and you can just tell that with the way he wrestles. I think he's unbelievable. And so, yeah, since he came back, since New Japan returned from lockdown, he's been in a tag thing with Tanahashi, and they've been doing their thing with Suzuki-gun, trading back with Dangerous Tekkers specifically, and they've been pretty damn good. It's almost like when you put the ace of the company and someone who, by all rights, could be the ace of the company in a team. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Literally call them an ace.
Yeah, you literally call them like they are just some of the best wrestlers that the company has. But yeah, so they've put them. So for some interesting bits on their stuff, it is the first time him and Jeff Cobb have ever been in the same ring as each other, which is insane,
God.
and that match is going to be so unbelievably good.
How is Kota Ibushi going to take the tour of the islands?
Straight on his neck.
Right on his
Like,
it's going to be
how-
disgusting.
Remember the Ridge Holland Johnny Gargano botch?
Yep.
Yeah,
It's gonna be like
Co-
that. But
yeah,
worse.
Kota's gonna take that intentionally. He, he is
Oh, I love this mad son of a bitch.
he is wild,
So
and
good.
I am so excited because he is like him and Cobb. Like he's gonna make Cobb look like $1 million with how he's gonna bump for him.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
Cobb looks like $1 million regardless. Watch your
Oh
mouth.
yeah, sorry, Cobb looks great regardless, but Ibushi is going to bump his like ever-loving crap off of itself.
There you
And okay, if the one thing I would like to see if he can physically do it is I can't remember his name for it. His sit out last ride. Yeah, the gun arm. If he can hit that on Jeff Cobb, I would scream
I don't
quite
doubt that he
loud.
can do it.
Oh no.
I don't-
Kota can do it.
He can do it. It's just when he does it, I'm still gonna lose it.
I think he's more switched to Kamigoye as his finish.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be. Yeah, I wouldn't be too shocked if he doesn't pull it out, but it'd be really cool if he did.
I mean, the Kamigoye is a murder death move, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
very
When I first saw him use it, I winced quite a lot. Anywho, we shall move on. For me, just talking about how great Ibushi is, talking about how great he is otherwise. Him and Ishii haven't actually wrestled since 2018, so it's been a few years since that matchup happened, and that's going to be very good. As we've talked about earlier, Ishii is insane, and
Speaking of
Ibushi is great.
Cobb,
We can have more Cobb in a minute. Him versus Shingo. This is the first time these two are wrestling in singles competition.
Really?
really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Holy shit.
And oh boy, oh yes, directly like inject that in my veins. It is going
what's the
to be.
lariat that Shingo does? He has a name for it, but I never remember the name of it.
Bumping Bomber.
Bushi's gonna take that right onto his neck, or onto his head, or both.
It's going
Speaking
to
of
be.
head, Will Ospreay versus Kota Ibushi is going to be wild just for the
Oh,
fact that if Kota Ibushi takes the hidden blade like he did at Wrestle Kingdom again,
Oh, I hope
oh
not.
my god,
That-
man, that was disgusting.
That was horrible to watch, but also amazing to watch.
Yeah. it's-
Kota Ibushi does not get concussions, but he got
No,
a concussion from That movie's
Concussions
terrible.
get Kota Ibushi.
that in Mother Russia. Kota Ibushi does not get concussion, gets Kota Ibushi.
I feel like this is going to be a repeating phrase that we use when we talk about the A block like matchups, but every single matchup is going to be fucking
Pretty
mental.
much, it's gonna be insane. Him and Jay as a Wrestle Kingdom rematch from Wrestle Kingdom this year. That match was an underrated. Like that one was really good on that show,
Yeah.
and I think
Also, there's a
them-
rematch from last year's finale.
rematch of the final. That's gonna these two have worked together enough that they know what they're doing with each other, so it's going to produce
100%.
something exceptional. And the final one that I've highlighted especially, him and Suzuki haven't wrestled since 2013.
Jeez.
Wow.
So they've had a
been
lot
that
of time apart.
wait,
Yeah.
really?
As in singles contest. These are
God.
they've been in tag matches obviously, but they haven't
was
been
gonna
in
say.
just they haven't been in a straight singles match since 2013. So this is
Wow.
a relatively fresh matchup between them now, and I
Well,
am so
It's
excited.
gonna be the G1 Climax winner versus the winner of Block C, Minoru Suzuki, who is also the current Nevoy Open champion. It's his 9th entry overall, first in
You say
2 years. What?
Did you say Neverweight Open Champion, or did I hear something
Never open
wrong?
weight.
There you go.
Wait.
I don't know.
Okay.
But Jake, what can we say about Murder Grandfather that no one
Grandpa.
has said that no one hasn't said yet?
The first sentence I have down kind of encapsulates the entire vibe that we're getting from Suzuki at this time. And that is, Suzuki is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's 52 years old.
Yes.
There is no way he's the G1 this year. You
Him
escaped
versus
one.
Nagata at the New Japan Cup.
Don't get me started on Eugene Gata. Suzuki's just phenomenal. He's a legend for sure, and I think he will have a very fun tournament filled with great matches. But Suzuki hasn't appeared in a G1 for 2 years, and I can see him taking out his pent-up aggression on any young line and opponent that's in front of him, to be honest.
Rip the young boys.
To be fair, there is legitimately a Minoru Suzuki award for the most young lions assaulted. which was Lance Archer last year with 52 attacks.
I love
I'm
Is
sure-
Minoru Suzuki going to beat that record?
probably.
Oh yeah.
Easily, with ease. He's
With the
gonna murder
greatest
some young
of
boys.
ease.
If he doesn't drop a young lion with a pile driver at least once, I'm gonna be upset.
At least once a night. If he wins, he celebrates by pile driving a young boy. If he loses, he condoles himself by pile driving a young boy. If it somehow ends up as a draw, he pile drives a young boy just because he feels like it. That is
Just
Minoru
because-
Suzuki.
Yeah. Honest.
I have 4 matches of his that I want to kind of talk about. I talked about the issue one before, so that one's out of the contest. So 3 basically, and one is his 9th singles match with Kazuchika Okada. That's
Nice.
crazy that they fought so many times.
I didn't think they fought that many times. Jeez.
Me either. Wow.
Yeah, they've fought each other, like I said, 8 times in singles matches. Most recently at the Royal Quest in the UK.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to more of Suzuki and Okada stuff, obviously, because they're 2 of the greatest wrestlers of all time, in my opinion. And I do have a first match that I want to talk about for Kota Ibushi. Not Kota Ibushi, from Minoru Suzuki. And that's with Will Ospreay.
Yep. I had that one. Yeah.
Oh
That's
god.
gonna be so good.
Oh my god.
I'm
Your
very
grandfather-
interested to see how this. I'm very interested to see how this turns out, because Ospreay and Suzuki have wrestled completely different styles, but Ospreay's recently moved up to heavyweight. He's gained a lot of muscle mass. So is he going to try to trade blows with Minoru Suzuki? That cement him as a heavyweight?
It's like grandfather versus rebellious teenager.
I can do and then murder.
Honestly,
And
though,
then just-
that's the best thing I could do to describe that.
But
And then
it's-
I've got one more highlight for Suzuki, and this one is what?
Taking the hidden blade.
Oh,
That's just a thought.
this is the rematch from the never open weight title match at Summer Struggle in Jingu, Minoru Suzuki versus Shingo Takagi.
Yes.
Oh, it's gonna be so
That match was
good.
the best of that. It was the best match on that show, arguably. So seeing him go
Arguably.
against each other, I think Hiromu versus Taichi was very close.
It was very close, but I still would put Suzuki and Shingo above that.
Respectable, but I think that Suzuki versus Shingo's rematch is going to be another insane murder match.
It's 2 people trying to hit each other so hard that their eyes pop out the back of their head. You got me hooked. You just have to have people hit each other hard, and you have me hook, line, and sinker.
Well, yeah, that's it. Those are the epitome of the people in Japan were struggling to work out how to make it look convincing that we're hitting each
So
other
they just
hard.
actually hit each other.
So let's
They
just
just
hit each other
hard.
really hard,
It's
and then they can't.
It's like and Neil will understand this reference. It's like in Progress, in one of their big storylines where the head booker got attacked by one of their emerging big heels, and the head booker was like, "So, how do you want me to take this? How do you want me to take this and whatnot?" And the wrestler just turned to him and said, "I'm gonna hit you for a chair, dead fucking hard, and you're
And
just
then
gonna
you
take it."
Oh, is
And
this the
that
person
is-
that we're not allowed to talk about anymore?
Yeah.
Why do you
that's
think
why
I'm
we
being so
don't say-
vague?
And
Why'd you
that
say
is why.
Neil gets that? He was my favorite wrestler before we weren't
We
allowed
don't
to talk.
Let's not talk about him. Okay.
No, but that
but
chair
this-
shot is why Jim Smallman is part deaf.
Let's talk about one of the biggest stars that are going to come out at the moment. Fucking Jeff Cobb.
Jeff Cobb, okay, my boy.
My god. This guy
Jeff-
has star written all over him, in my
The
opinion.
real thick boy.
He is a real thick boy. He's super nice too. He's had a very successful couple of years, winning the PWG title, the PWG tag titles, the never openweight title, which he won from Ospreay, the ROH TV title, which he held for freaking ages and ages. I have written down that last year, the people in his block that he did beat last year, that were in his block last year, were Taichi and Shingo. Both have done a lot of things since then, so I don't know if that will go the same way. But I'm looking forward to seeing those rematches again, especially Shingo, because yes. And then the people in his block he took losses to last year were Ishii and Jay White. Jay White went to the finals, and yeah, we all know who that ended. He ended the G1 29 with 8 points. Hopefully he'll at least get to that again this year, if not more. Hoping more. So I have three matches written down. And these aren't because story reasons. These are just because I think these are going to be really, really good. First time ever, Jeff Cobb versus Kazuchika Okada.
Oh,
It's going to be so good.
just countering a Rainmaker into a Tour of the Islands back into something else is going to just be the best.
Dude,
No. That into a pile driver.
Oh,
Into a tombstone from Okada.
Spinning one he does?
I don't know how it's going to work, but I want that.
I'm sure they can figure it out.
It can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it's Okada. They can work that out fine.
And then for the rematch that I'm looking forward to the most is Jeff Cobb versus Will Ospreay. Because they faced each other at the G1 Supercard, and it was so freaking good. It was, out of everything I remember that match the most, probably because it was my favorite match that was on the card. It was just so good.
It was very good.
Can't say much about it because it's just insanely good. You have two great Western wrestlers going against each other in a New Japan environment.
Exactly.
In hot Madison Square Garden. So
it was just really good. And that's where Cobb won the Never Openweight title, which he lost. I don't remember who he lost it to. I think he lost it to Taichi. Could totally be wrong on that, though.
That's right.
And then I think the best match that he will have in this block, and it's just because it's two big, beefy men beating the piss out of each other, Jeff Cobb versus Shingo. Because if you give me two big men beating each other up, I will be there 9 times out of 11. I mean 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 6. I'll be there extra times. Just give me them trading lariats. That's all I want.
Oh, it's gonna be so good.
Also, somehow let Shingo hit Made in Japan on Jeff Cobb.
How?
I don't know, but I want to see it.
That's for them to figure out.
I somehow want to see Jeff Cobb reverse it into a Tour of the Islands, though, because Jeff Cobb.
I just want to see him hit more Tour of the Islands because it is one of the best finishes, I think.
It looks so good
basic.
as well.
It's so basic, but it just looks so good. Jeff Cobb should go undefeated in his block. I'm kidding, of course.
That's
but
a
also,
bold call.
That was a joke. But also, I wouldn't complain if it actually happened. It's not going to happen because I have a feeling he might finish towards the lower half of the block, but he'll put on good matches.
Well, last year, I'm just trying to look. Last year, he came out with 8 points.
I said that already.
Yeah. So
it's a miracle if he does 8 points this year.
And speaking of people that are miracles to companies, we need to go to one of the flag bearers of New Japan. And Jake, please control yourself as you go through your next person. The Rainmaker's Kazuchika Okada making his 9th consecutive entry into the G1, 2012-2014 winner. Last year he went 7-2 in the G1 with 14 points. And just recently, just to rub it into Jake, he lost to Yano in the King of Pro Wrestling match at Summer Struggle.
Don't remind me.
Which is a
because
ridiculous
Toriano
sentence.
is the king of pro wrestling.
Jake, off you go.
I have a lot of stuff to say about Kazuchika Okada.
Surprising nobody.
Yeah.
Put the timer on.
Kazuchika Okada is my favorite wrestler of all time, plain and simple. Though, I do not think he should win the G1 this year. I know New Japan likes their rematches, so I wouldn't pass him to put Okada win it again and face Naito at Wrestle Kingdom in 2021. He's the ace of New Japan, so you can never really count him out of these tournaments because it's rare for Okada to actually lose a singles match. And him escaping the block is a very high probability. I just don't want to see another Okada versus Naito match at the Tokyo Dome in 2021 at least.
Don't think they need
I
to.
want him to bring back the Rainmaker, which is a very controversial thing because his new submission is
Not good.
less than fun.
Not good. I'm just gonna straight out and say it. Not good.
No,
But I think the one thing that we should realize whenever we talk about Okada in this is that he's still in his early 30s. So it's, he still has another at least 5 stellar G1 Climax performance left in him. So if he doesn't do too hot in this one, he's still got plenty to go on after this. And then there's 4 matches I want to talk about. One is him versus Kota Ibushi. They had one of the best matches of 2020 in the Tokyo Dome on January 4th. And I think that they can replicate and have another amazing match here if both men trim their match down to under 30 minutes and understand that, these are 2 of the best wrestlers New Japan has. And then for the overall best match that I think Will Ospreay is going to have, sorry, okay, I just spoiled it. Against Will Ospreay. These 2 have had many March encounters whenever they do the IWGP Heavyweight Champion versus the Junior Heavyweight Champion. And I feel like this is the first time that they're going to wrestle each other as equals because, Okada's the one who brought Will Ospreay into New Japan because he fought him on a Rev Pro show and he was like, okay, this guy's special. So I think that having Okada and Ospreay fight as equals, while I don't think Ospreay should necessarily win because I think there's more of that story to be told, I think having Okada and Ospreay, have an even match is very cool and something that should happen.
The interesting thing about this match between Okada and Ospreay is that it is currently scheduled for the final night of the A block. So the ramifications that this match could have on the entire tournament, and we don't even know how we're getting to the end of the tournament, but we're already looking at what impact will this match have on the entire card and who escapes out of the block.
I think this could be a winner in. If I was a betting man, I would put.
You said the line.
Yeah. I think that this match will be. Both of these guys are on the cusp of making it into the finals. Winner of this match makes it in. I think that might be where they're going with it, and if that's where they go with it, I would just love it because you have this the story moment of how far Ospreay's willing to go. Because I think that could be because him and Okada are best mates outside the ring from what I've heard, and the whole story of Ospreay, he's his mentor and his friend, so he doesn't want to go all out and knock this man unconscious with a hidden blade, but how much does he value the G1 over his friend? So that could be a really interesting story.
Because the thing is with Okada, there's 2 statistics that come out of the G129 which are the biggest stats to look at in versus Ospreay. And I'll just run down this real quick before we talk about Ospreay in a second. Okada has the best pinfall success ratio from 22 attempts to 7 successful, and is the most attempted finishers with 49 attempts and 19 Rainmakers hit. This is against Will Ospreay having the most pinfall attempts in general with 51. So you're looking at 2 men that know that have moves that can put people down with impact. So let's kind of merge talking about these 2. Let's talk about Will Ospreay as well in his second consecutive entry into the G1. Like you just alluded to, Jake, does Will Ospreay have something to prove, Neil, in the G1 this year?
I think so, because this is his return after lockdown. He's been trapped in the UK for most of his time, and he hasn't, to the best of my knowledge, until the Rev Pro show, he hadn't wrestled since the Wrestle Talk showcase from all the way back at the beginning of lockdown.
I'm pretty sure you're correct in that saying that.
Yeah, and then he's done 2 Rev Pro shows, I think, and now he's flown back over and gone through the quarantine. And so this is his big return to New Japan. So you've got to think that they want to remind everyone, hey, he's really good, and he is our Gaijin Ace, because I think he's taking the Omega spot of being their big foreign talent.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And
I would
so,
disagree with that.
yeah,
Switchblade Jay White.
I was actually gonna say that
That is a
myself. I
shout.
was looking at Jay White.
Wasn't
I-
thinking of Jay White. That's fair. That's
yeah.
fair.
I think I don't know. I think
He's
maybe
their
Osprey.
he's their big face foreign talent. Let's say.
Yeah, he's their big. Because I don't think Jay's ever gonna turn face.
Oh,
Because
no.
I think he's just that
How
much
could you
of a
turn
heel.
him face? How could you turn Switchblade Jay White face?
You just couldn't. So I think that's why he's their big marketable Gaijin face of the company. I think is the best way to put, because whenever they put out one of their ads for like the New Japan collection, you have Osprey on there. When they did the how to behave yourself in a New Japan show, they had Osprey on there. So I think they do want to put him in a prominent position, and I think this year could be Osprey's year in the G1. I would not be surprised to see him in the final. And I may be wrong, but I think there were rumors that before lockdown they had big plans for him, and I don't think they're going to stop that. So I would highlight some matches, but what I have highlighted is him versus Ishii being a first time ever match, and yes please, him versus
Yes,
Suzuki being a
please.
him versus Suzuki being a first time ever match, and give me all
Yes,
of that. Yeah. And the rematch that I've put down as the most hyped match is him versus Shingo, because they're no, him versus Shingo. It was a bit good.
Just a little bit.
Only a bit
Just
mental.
a small bit. Just a small bit of the best match of that year.
It was so good, and I cannot wait for them to put that all in the G1 and do wrestling on Fast Forward.
Yep, that's pretty fair.
Ooh,
Oh.
That is very fair.
It'll be very good.
it will
Yep.
be.
Have high hope.
Brad, who's your next guy?
The only other guy I have in A blog is Taichi.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Next one is Shingo on the list.
On
I have
Shingo?
pulled up. Yep, so
Okay.
next one is Shingo. So, yep, nicely turning off my most excited rematch. We have Shingo Takagi. I don't have all
Yes.
of the fancy stats, so I'll tag over to Jake.
Shingo Takagi is the best wrestler in New Japan. There's no doubt about it in my mind. He's constantly in the best match of the night. He's in the contention for Wrestler of the Year if he has a good G1. This is a weird kind of thing because he's going into the G1 differently than he was last year, because last year he's coming in as a junior heavyweight who just competed in the Best of Super Juniors with Will Ospreay. And he needed to make that step up and get used to wrestling heavyweight competitors, because if you look back at his days in Dragon Gate's a very smaller guy-based promotion. So seeing Shingo wrestle with guys more of his size is very interesting, that I'm looking forward to. I believe that he could make it out of his block because he has deep ties to the Naito going back many, many years to whenever they were amateur wrestlers together. I feel like Shingo's work from Dragon Gate onwards is some of the best in modern Japanese wrestling, and in that case, modern wrestling as a whole. So I think that Shingo versus Naito could be a great Wrestle Kingdom main event, specifically for how important it is to New Japan Pro Wrestling and their history. If they're comfortable with someone who made their name elsewhere to main event Wrestle Kingdom. Shingo has also competed in the Champions Carnival, which is All Japan Pro Wrestling's round robin tournament, which predates the G1 Climax. I think that could be very cool to see him compete in both tournaments within 4 years, I think, of each other. His matches are stuff that I've already written down, because I have Shingo versus Kota Ibushi, because who would not want to see that?
Basically.
It's their first singles match against each other, which is crazy, and I really think that they could put on the match of the tournament. For the rematch of Shingo that I'm looking forward to is his match versus Will Ospreay, as we previously touted. And his best match is going to be a surprising one, because these guys fought in B Block last year, and they're fighting an A block in 2020. Shingo Takagi versus Jay White.
Yeah,
Mm,
that'll be
Yeah.
very good.
that would be very good.
I think that it plays to Jay White's character that he dissects his opponents and then finishes them off. And I think that there's no larger creature to dissect than the dragon Shingo Takagi. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
very
can-
looking forward
it'll be very good.
It will be so good.
Basically,
No,
yeah,
that's
they
it.
brought him in. They brought him in as a junior and had him go undefeated till the end of the Super Juniors that Osprey won before last year's G1, and he
Yeah,
killed that role.
Shingo is some. No, I was just gonna on how great Shingo is. He's one of those that as I don't really have until a few months ago. I didn't really have that much of a knowledge of Japanese wrestling outside of New Japan. So to suddenly for when Shingo was debuted, I didn't really know much about him. I'd heard his name thrown around, and then suddenly to just the faith they put in him, I was like, oh, so he's a top star. And then when he just put on banging match after banging match, I'm like, oh right, yeah, so hey, he's just one of the best.
He's
There's
just
no
a
argument.
little bit good.
Yeah.
Do we expect? So, two questions to round out Shingo. Do we expect? I'm honestly anticipating a Best of the Super Juniors tournament in end of the year, and obviously Shingo is going to be in that tournament. How is G1 going to affect his Super Junior run?
I don't think he's going to be in.
I don't think he'd be in a
a.
Super Junior if they did it this year. I'm pretty sure he's made the full transition to heavyweight.
Has he made the? I
Yeah.
can't remember if he's made the full transition. So this might be
I'm-
me being an idiot.
I think he has.
I
could be
think after doing two G1s, I think at that point he's pretty solidified in the heavyweight division. What with his stuff with the open weight title,
Yeah,
I think
that's
him
kind
himself said he was transitioning to full heavyweight.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
said that matching against Satoshi Kojima at Dominion last year.
All right. Okay. And speaking of someone that can do anything, the one half of the current IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions,
One half of the Dangerous Techers.
you got Taichi.
I do have Taichi.
Do you want to talk about Taichi?
Taichi surprisingly is pretty successful in New Japan. He's had the
Why are you shocked by that?
is because he's not in my upper echelon of New Japan talent, even though I do actually kind of enjoy his matches, especially when tag teaming with Zack.
Whoa, that's for obvious reasons.
But he's held the
Yeah.
never openweight title twice. He's had 2 reigns with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, one with Taka Michinoku, the other one with Kanemaru. And then he's the current heavyweight tag champ with Zack. So he's been more successful than I think a lot of people would expect, is what I'm trying to say. But last year in the G1, he beat Ishii, which not a lot of people expected in my eyes. But he beat Ishii last year. But then he lost to Shingo Takagi, and he lost to Jay White. I think. I'd have to go back and look on that, but I'm pretty sure he lost to both of those who are in his block this year. Like most of my people that I got, he ended with 8 points at the end of the tournament. I only have 2 matches highlighted for him because he doesn't have a first time ever match in his block. He's fought everyone in there before. The only other match I have highlighted is Taichi versus Ibushi, just because I think that'll be good. Callbacks to the tag stuff with Techers and Golden Ace.
Yep, I think that could be very good.
Because I remember their New Japan Cup match being pretty good. Yeah, I think Taichi's improving.
Taichi's definitely improving.
I definitely like him a lot more than when I first found out about him. Because when I first found out about him, wasn't really too keen on him, and now I enjoy his matches.
This is it.
He's still not at like the top of the card, but I enjoy his matches
doesn't
enough.
need to be.
Exactly. He's good. That's
When
all I'm trying to say.
When I first saw him, I loved him because he was a member of Suzuki and because his entrance was a bit stupid.
That's fair.
Since then, I've actually enjoyed his in-ring work more than just him being a member of Suzuki-gun, thus I must like him. So I think that's definitely been a good sign on him in that his in-ring stuff has gotten noticeable now.
Oh yes.
Taichi is also 40 years old. Just wanted to throw that out there.
How
Yes.
old?
40.
Huh?
He's
Is he
40.
40 years old. Yes.
That surprises me.
It's weird, I know. But
Oh,
he's
yeah.
40.
I thought he was younger than that.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed too, but yeah, he's 40.
Masks had a
Yeah.
lot, I guess.
I don't really have much else to say for Taichi. I think him and Suzuki will be fun.
The dynamic there.
Taichi matches are fun. Like, you go into it knowing that it's not going to be a technical classic, it's not going to be a 5-star classic, but you know you're going to go in and have a bunch. It's going to be
Exactly.
a pretty damn good, solid show.
You're gonna get to see Taichi do some stuff to rip off his pants.
And speaking of ripping off your pants, let's go on to the Tokyo.
No. Oh God.
Yujiro Takahashi.
Yujiro
First-
Takahashi.
I'm
First
gonna.
G1 appearance in 5 years, his 7th entry overall. Neil, take it away.
I'm gonna peel back the curtain a little here. Takahashi, the Yujiro Takahashi is probably my least favorite wrestler on the New Japan roster. Not because of his in-ring work, more because I hate his gimmick. But we will move past that. Since their return from lockdown, he hasn't really been up to much of substance. As of the recording of this podcast, he hasn't won a match in over a month. He's been involved in a lot of losing multi-man tags as a member of Bullet Club. But some interesting, I very much struggle to say a lot of good about him because I think he's one of the more average, consistent members of their roster, which is fine. But when you're in a roster like New Japan, where everyone is up in god tier, having someone who's just pretty solid sticks out like a bit of a sore thumb. And I don't think that's. But for some fun ones, him and Taichi haven't wrestled since 2008, so
Wow.
like on a
It's been a long time.
as in singles matches, just to. But yeah, it's been a really long time since that. First time matches, him and Shingo and him and Ospreay are first time matches, so they're going to be good because it's going to be an Ospreay and a Shingo match. And he also hasn't wrestled Jay White, so those are all going to be solidly interesting. And I think the him and Jay White one is going to be quite interesting as an intra Bullet Club match. Intra faction matches are always fun.
Oh yeah, those
Yeah.
are always fun to see.
Yeah. And the rematch I'm most excited for is him versus Okada because I just really like Okada and think he can carry him to what's going to be a really good match,
But
regardless.
They also have the story going
Yeah.
between those two.
Mm.
You said he hasn't
Yeah.
really been doing much. He's been in kind of a weird mini feud with Okada, which has been really weird.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, this is from my reading of results and a bit more. So if there's
Yeah.
details I'm missing, you guys fill me in on this. But yeah, from what it seems, he hasn't won a match in over a month. He has he has no chance of escaping his block.
Oh,
And
absolutely
if
not.
he comes
No.
especially in
that's
this block,
that's
if he
his
comes
role.
if he comes anywhere but dead last in this block, I will be shocked.
I think it's almost guaranteed that he's going to be in dead last.
Yeah.
But he's at least gonna have some fun matches on the way down.
He's at least going to be Tokyo pimping his way out there.
Yes. Mm.
The disdain in his voice.
The absolute hate.
Neil
one day
right
I'm-
now is gonna be Brad on the next episode when we talk about Yoshihashi.
Ah,
No,
don't.
I'm tame. I'm taming rather than
He's tame.
hatred for
I'm
Yoshihashi.
loud.
Yeah, like
He's
I
tame
can
about his hatred of Yujiro. I'm loud about my hatred of Yoshihashi.
That's it. I could probably very well write an entire article at some point of why I strongly dislike Yujiro, and I may, but yeah, no.
Well,
he
I
doesn't
kinda
do
wanna
it for
see
me.
that.
Yeah,
I
he
kind of want
really-
to see that too. That'd be fun to see.
Maybe I will, but he just really doesn't do it for me. And
We need more random articles for the website.
Yes.
Well, that's your guys' job. I just edit that shit.
That's-
Unfortunately. But We have one more person to cover in this week's episode of the METEORA podcast, G1 Climax 30 A block breakdown, and that is the Switchblade Jay White,
You
member
said
of
this
Bullet
week's.
Club.
The G1 starts on Saturday.
Well, it's going to be a special double edition this week.
There you go.
Okay. I think Jay is the most likely candidate to win the G1 this year. Last year, he made the finals and put on a classic with Kota Ibushi. I can definitely see him escaping his block and putting on another great match, especially with Kota, Kota's in his block, but I think a strong factor in why I think that he will win the G1 is because the entire power dynamic in Bullet Club being up in the air. I think that it would be a great story if Jay does what Kenta and Evil could not and getting a decisive win over Naito and keeping the momentum going. Also, having a Gaijin main event at the Tokyo Dome that isn't named Kenny Omega is a very big decision in 2020 New Japan Pro Wrestling. And we'll see how it'll show that New Japan perceives Jay as one of their top Gaijins. I think that he will have a pretty standard tournament match quality-wise, which for him is having good matches with everyone else. I think that he has a great interwoven story with Kazuchika Okada, and if he can be the next Gaijin to win the G1 Climax, it's obviously a huge deal. In way of the matches I'm looking forward to the most, I think that Kota Ibushi and Jay White is going to be the rematch that I'm most looking forward to. And then the best match will be Jay White versus Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
Because 2019, they had the heavyweight versus junior heavyweight match that they traditionally do every year, and it was between these two guys. And they put on a match of the year contender in March. And I think that with how they each wrestle different styles, Jay White's more of a, picking you apart, slow, methodical, and Will Ospreay is just high offense, not really letting you breathe. I think that it could be a very interesting match to see them going up against each other.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love Jay from the moment I saw him re-debut. I was just capped with his match with Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom a couple of years back now. I was captivated by just everything he did, and even though it wasn't the best match on that card by any stretch of the imagination, the way he was, everything about him I couldn't take my eyes off. And then the year he had leading up to becoming the leader of Bullet Club was phenomenal, I think, and he's only gotten better since then.
Like Neil, when he re-debuted, I loved everything about it. The theme song, the look, the entrance, the way he wrestles. I saw him a little bit before his re-debut in Ring of Honor. And he was super good. And then when he re-debuted in New Japan as Switchblade, it was amazing. And his entire run since then has also been amazing. I guess is the only really word I can use to describe it. The whole thing with Kenny inviting him to join Bullet Club, but then him being like, nah, B, taking the U.S. title, him joining Chaos as only to be a little bit of a cunt, and to him getting Ghetto to betray Okada, and then him joining Bullet Club. Everything is really good. I don't have much to say. Everything's been good.
They've done so much good with Jay White, and I think it's a testament to how much they see in the future of Jay White, especially for him as one of their big Gaijin sort of banner names alongside Will Ospreay. You can't. They've done no wrong with him. I feel like, minus a couple things maybe here and there that I've forgotten, but they've done him so good.
I think the only thing they did wrong with him is kind of not double down on him holding the belt for a while, because his heavyweight reign was very short.
Yeah,
I think the only wrong that they've done with Jay White is making him an interference heel.
Yeah, that he's good enough not to need that.
Yeah,
but I think him versus Okada is another one that's gonna be an absolute banger in this block, because the history those two have and the story that these two can tell together is just going to be so good. Their match from the G1, whichever one was the one where he turned, was just, I remember watching it live or not live. I remember watching it and just, oh my, I was in awe. Like my mouth was wide open. Yeah, and I weirdly because I'm a partial watcher, I didn't see it coming, and just watching him decimate Okada, I was shocked, and it was perfect. And I'm so excited.
It's going to
I'm-
be amazing.
I'm very excited about this entire block, and on the next episode of the podcast, once we finish our breakdown of Block B, we're going to talk a lot more about the overall sort of feel for the G1, and one thing that we will look at is how do we think that the final block nights will look in terms of the order of the matches, because as we know, that determines
Next episode, we're going to say who we think is escaping
so
each
much.
block.
Yeah. And
Okay,
and also like the order of the matches for that show.
I was going to say we should do that before we end this one, but if we're doing that in the next episode, then yeah.
I mean, we can do that now while we're talking about A.
We'll do it next episode.
Well, yeah,
Leave
we'll
them on
save
a
that.
cliffhanger.
We'll
Yeah,
do it next because we're good.
Just talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to look at the final
Yeah.
picks for each block.
God, okay. We've talked about a lot about the standout matches and whatnot, but overall, who is going to be the standout? Who is going to have their breakout in A block? I know one name that's going to be thrown out already.
Shingo.
Shingo Takagi.
It's a no-brainer. It's going to be Shingo.
Yeah.
It's the two names I had in my head were going to be either Shingo or Jeff Cobb, because those two.
I mean, Cobb, I want Cobb to do well. I really want him to, but he's not consistently in New
He's not-
Japan enough for him to do super, super well.
Yeah. that's the thing.
Although the fact he's made the commitment to fly out in this time, I think that signals he might have a larger and larger role with New Japan. So I
That's
don't
the
think
thing is, he puts out a standout performance here, and he gets brought out more.
and I
He
think
becomes
that's what
part
they're.
of the regular roster. I would like that.
That's it.
I very much enjoy that. Throw
I
him
think
in
that's-
more options. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that's more what they're moving towards in having him over as more of a full-time deal, or at least more of a deal than he currently has. I think that would be fantastic, and the fact that he's done this in the middle of a global pandemic really signals that he wants to be a part of New Japan.
Big, nice Hawaiian boy.
Mm.
My three names for standing out are Shingo, Cobb. I'm hoping Cobb does good. Then my third name is Will, for A block at least.
I think all of us can agree on those three names.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
I
think
see Will doing very well for himself in this.
I think he's going to put out a damn good showing. Final question before we wrap this up from each of you. I want one bold prediction, not about who wins it or anything, just one bold
One bold
out there
prediction.
prediction.
I've
Okay,
got mine.
First,
Go.
Oh wait,
Cobb
Brad, go
beats-
first.
It's not going to happen, but I would love it.
God,
No,
the internet would
my
melt.
My actual bold prediction: Shingo beats Okada.
Fuck.
hmm My one's
I would love if Cobb beat Okada, though. That'd be awesome.
that'd be so good. My one's maybe less bold than that. I think Ospreay's beating Suzuki, and that's going to be a never open weight feud, and I think that's going to carry him through to Wrestle Kingdom, because
I can see that.
I don't see them strapping the heavyweight title to Ospreay now. So I think they're gonna put him in the openweight division, and I can see him versus Suzuki at Wrestle Kingdom being insane.
Oh,
Just being
Jesus.
good. Just
Oh,
good lads.
oh no.
All
Okay,
right.
Jake.
This one's very bold. I think Jay White versus Will Ospreay could be the match of the year.
Okay.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Kane, what's your bold prediction?
God. I think I'd love the idea of Shingo beating Okada.
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think my bold prediction of this really is that Ishii is
Yujiro
top
beats
3.
Okada.
Ishii is
Ishii-
top 3 in block.
I can see it.
Yeah,
Ishii-
maybe.
I can see them giving him a dead good showing.
It's almost guaranteed that he's not going to win the block, but I can see him having a very good showing in the block.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting A block to watch because of the star power, and because it's got so much star power in it. You have no clue who's gonna win what and who's gonna come out like we do. We know roughly that say Yujiro and Taichi probably gonna be near the bottom of the card of that 10 block of 10, but as for the top spots, it's very, very up in the air.
And so I see, and we'll talk about them more next episode, not next week. I see 3 names in my mind are going to be competing going into those last nights for who's going to make it out, and we will talk about those next time. But I think you can probably guess.
Yeah.
Definitely Yujiro.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely
100%.
Yoshihashi.
No.
Yeah. No, Yujiro's definitely going to be vying. He's going to win the whole damn thing.
Well,
All right, should we wrap this crap up and then go
let's wrap up. Let's wrap up episode 1 of the METEORA podcast. Thank you 3 for joining us today.
An hour late.
Join us.
an hour late?
You guys aren't gonna let that go, aren't you?
Nope, never.
No, mate.
Never.
It started at 10 o'clock at night for me. I'm not letting you live that one down.
For Neil, for Jake, for Brad, I'm Kane. This has been the 630s METEORA podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Any last words, boys?
No.
Nope.
Nah.
Bob up.